All right, go for
There
it.
we go. All right, we're live.
All right, welcome. Welcome to the RSSC Tech Room and Riverside Robotics Society meeting. I'm Jim D'Annunzio, your host. Tonight,
The hostess with the mostest.
yeah,
It's from an old Topper movie.
yeah, that's a phrase I've heard before quite a few times. So we have a slightly smaller group today, probably because of the holiday. So we'll have a little business meeting of sorts if there's any announcements and anything with robotics in the news that people or academics that people would like to have heard of recently. And then I have a little presentation, so basically a show and tell of my latest work that I prepared. The latest work for the OAK-D or the OpenCV AI competition. And that's a robot delivering, identifying people, delivering items to people. And so that's all pre-recorded and with the volume boosted for the robot. Anyway, and then we'll have open show and tell. And then a summary wrap up, and if there's anyone who wants to continue after 12, we'll provide for that. But yeah, so first up is any business announcements. One announcement is I was trying to get a speaker, Dr. Carletta, that was recommended, that I got a recommendation for, and but she's I'm not available until probably July. She'll probably come in July. A lot of these speakers, you gotta give them notice. And I think today was the commencement at their university. So it's a difficult time, but we're looking forward. She's a professor in robotics and engineering, and and AI stuff. So we'll get her during Tech Rooms July month, hopefully. Also, anybody who has any speaker connections or leads, I realized we can post this on LinkedIn and Facebook under, well, I guess the RSSC, yeah, we post to our list, of course, but then it's like the Facebook of Homebrew Robotics and Tech Room or other ones. Basically, as long as we can, we're allowed to, we can post sort of invites for looking for speakers. So I'm going to start doing more of that. But part of it is it's difficult to, like, where do you go or how many cold calls do you do to try to find, guest speakers. Do anybody have any other announcements? And then for any news, anybody heard of anything interesting? I usually send out every week or two some links that I get about AI. Apparently that, yeah, both Buzz and Dr. Bruce were interested in that paper, First Return, Then Explore, which is a paper on reinforcement learning. And it is available for free, even download as well, even though it was in Nature magazine, Nature journal, and they want to charge you money for it, but it's available at other universities for free to download. And even the Nature one you can view on your screen. But if you want to print it, you need to download. But that whole concept was, it seems like it's important for reinforcement learning to an important possible development because of these problems of detachment and derailment, where the robot or the AI in the robot, it forgets what it had learned before, and then it does all this extra exploration from points it already knew, and or from, I'm sorry, from what it didn't know, and so it just is wasting time. So the first return means return back to what you knew and then explore from there. Sounds simple, but there's a whole big paper about it.
Jim,
Jim,
I want to
Jim,
thank you for getting those links. Really appreciate it.
All right, no problem.
yeah, Jim, I want to thank you for the link also. It was really an interesting concept that most reinforcement learning on an AI neural net is really depth first kind of learning. I'd never really thought about it that way, but it really is a depth first sort of approach. And this was a way of going back and making it into basically a breadth first search strategy. And these days, with massively parallel AI networks and massively parallel neural nets, you could run both strategies at the same time and see which one came up with a reasonable solution first. So sometimes breadth first, looking at all the possibilities, makes more sense. And sometimes going with reasonable possibilities and going in depth first leads you to a better solution. So having the option really is a kind of amazing thing. I just saw an ad for a, yeah, there you go. I just saw an ad for a Jetson Nano cluster. So you can actually build your own, not only is it parallel to start with, but you can build your own clusters of Jetson Nanos. And you can take advantage of both strategies.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, I saw that ad for the cluster. I think, one of the emails I get from one of those stores. But yeah, and this was incidentally inspired by video games, or I mean, the video games are a common test bed for the reinforcement learning. So things like Donkey Kong and other these early 2D scroll games, and that's what you're seeing here. But yeah, I haven't read this yet. It's definitely on my list though. So that's the title, First Return and Explore, and yeah, you can see the nature one or look at this one or download it. So yeah, that's cool. Other than that, I mean, there's too many things in the news that it's not anything that really strikes me that well. I guess I could go back to the let me see, the last post I did. I had a few. Hold on a sec. Yeah. Oh, let's share that again.
Hey, Jim, I'm getting a lot of either feedback or some other conversation in the background here.
Yeah, I'm hearing some of that. Could everyone please mute if you're not actively speaking? Yeah, so this that article or that paper came out of this this initial link, which is how AI trained to beat Atari games could impact robots. Right. So I always forget. I forgot these things. These new terms. Forgetting is called detachment. Reducing the inability to return to places previously visited, called derailment. And the concept is it builds an archive of the different states it has visited. Then it first returns to a known state before exploring again, minimizing the failure to return. So that's sort of the key I got from this, at least not the paper, but the talking about the paper. So that I haven't done anything personally with reinforcement learning in any of my projects. Maybe sometime in the future. Oh, the other thing was I asked people about the Deep Racer. Deep Racer is the Amazon robot that uses it's a reinforcement-based system, AI car, hardware and software, and it runs on the AWS infrastructure. Anyway, they open sourced it finally. The robot itself was 300 or 400, depending on, I guess, if their sale has ended. But unfortunately, I guess this requires a lot of AWS time if you just use their console, which costs you money. But you can train it on your own computer with the Linux system. So, but it's interesting. It's an interesting product. That's what it looks. Can you see that picture? That's sort of what it looks like. And it's it's not too different from the AI jet, like the JetBot and Jetson Nano JetBot type of systems, but this is totally developed by Amazon, and they have races and leagues and all that. So it's a little more organized, but it is kind of a commercial thing, and they make money off it. So that's just an issue that you can. And apparently there's a lot of simulating. There's a lot of RViz simulation software that you can use for free that someone said is probably the best thing out of this. Once you create a Linux system or from I think a Docker, and then somebody has a Docker, and then you can use these. You can do all the work completely in a simulator in the RViz, and then you don't even need the real hardware. And you can train the robot to go around the track and all that. But anyways, it's just another alternative to the donkey car. Anyway, I think that's I think that's it for news. Unless somebody has, just the highlights. Other than that, then I guess, what else was there that
I don't know if there's something wrong with my system or not, but I'm not seeing the little ellipsis in order to save the chat. Is that something you guys control?
It should be there. Yeah, it's there on mine. Save chat. You have to, well, yeah, if you can see the chat, it should be there.
Next, to the right of the to field, there's an ellipsis. It says
It says file.
File, and then the ellipsis.
File, and then ellipsis.
Yeah, normally I see it, but it's not here today for some reason. Oh well.
Well, it's in the three little dots right of the file.
There are no three dots this time for me. I don't know what's going on.
You might want to try to minimize or maximize your window. Maximize it and see.
Okay, I'll try that. Anyway, go on with all your stuff. Sorry.
Let's see. So, yeah, I guess I didn't have any videos of news, but well, I guess we can get on to my short. I have the presentation first, and then if anybody has some show and tell, please. I know this is a small group, but just put your name and the time in the chat window, and I'm pretty sure we'll get everybody in. Oh, also a note of advice on Zoom. I've been, I'm on a call on Sundays with our group that's working on the social distancers group that's working on the contest for the OAK-D stereo camera, and people were saying your screen is blurry, we can't read the text. So I found out that when you share screen, you have that option that says share sound, optimized for video clip. Actually, the optimized for video clip is for full screen video, and if you click that, it will blur. In fact, I want to test it right now. So I'm going to share. Well, you were just seeing my text, right? Does the text look good? Can you read that?
Yeah, looks clear.
Yes, I can read that. Very clear.
So if you read that, and if I hit share screen and then I say optimize for video, now what do you see?
Oh, that's blurry.
Yep. So that confirms, do not use that button unless you're showing video, which I am going to. And if you switch between video and non-video, you have to quit your sharing and then turn it off or whatever, I guess. It's the only way so that's a little point of advice. Kind of wish there was a way in Zoom that you could see what another person sees. I guess you could have a second computer connected, which is always possible, but it's a little inconvenient. So this time I'm going to show some videos. So I'm going to use that button. So what I've been working on, so essentially this is the beginning of Orange the Robot version 3. And it now has a tray, which I've already shown, and it has the Oak D stereo AI camera mounted on top. And it now has eyes, at least some sort of depiction of eyes on its screen. And thank you, Dr. Bruce, for, well, originally, he gave me some code, and I decided to do slightly different eyes, but I have to thank a neurologist for knowing how often people blink and what the duration is. So that code is appreciated.
You have to thank Google for that.
Oh, okay. I was attributing it to your many years of training. Anyway.
I could pretend, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm going to show is the robot doing one of the tasks we decided to do for this contest is we're the social distancers, and we wanted to be able to deliver items from one person to another person in a different room, say, to keep the people separated. So that's what this storyline is about. We're also trying to use the Oak D camera. So it's to identify people and objects, which it easily does with this with the YOLO version 4, I think. YOLO neural network model, which runs on board the camera and puts a bounding box around objects and people. So that, and you just load that model in. The other purpose we're going to try to using it for is for depth, for collision avoidance. And that I'm not going to demo yet. I'm still working on that. That's going to be the next week or two. This contest is due in about 5 weeks or something. So we're kind of in the rush to get everything, working. But the depth, it is using depth to approach the person, calculate where the person is, and then go up to them. And that's the stereo camera allows you to look at the depth information along with the bounding box from the neural network that's running from the model.
Are you going to try to identify the person's face as well, who it is? So
Well,
it's the wrong person.
Yeah, we're not attempting that at this stage, probably not even for this contest, because that would require some training on specific people. there is already a model available that will identify female versus male and approximate age. And we could use that if, you know, my wife, for instance, and I, you know, we could use that to identify. But at this point, I'm just getting things working. And so I'm not trying to do a specific person identification. So it's going for anybody really at this stage. But that's the first step. And eventually, maybe past this project, past this due date, which is just a month away really, then we'll look, you know, I might experiment with training or see what other models because yeah, to do a specific people, you really do have to train. They do also have a pedestrian counter where it can, people that are wearing different outfits, it can identify them as like number 1, number 2. So that's that model already exists, but that doesn't know a particular person like this is Jim. It just knows that was the third person that entered the scene, you know.
Jim, if you want it, I have some Python code that allows you to recognize different individuals from a small group set. And
Oh,
it doesn't use a neural net, so it doesn't require that kind of training.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. That could run on the regular CPU then, huh?
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, maybe if we had something without the net, that might be, you know, an option. But, you know, the main point here is bringing, the main goal that we set was to deliver something to a person, identify object, identify people, be able to navigate, and to be able to navigate using the depth camera to avoid obstacles. So, all right, well, without further ado, I want to get to play these videos. Or what does new share mean? Can you share twice? Okay, so I'm optimized. So now, first one I'll show you is, let's see. I'll just show you the best one first. Orange, bring this to Evelyn in the kitchen nook.
Okay. Please place the object on my tray. Okay, I will deliver this bottle to Evelyn in the kitchen look. I'm going to the kitchen look.
Those new eyes, Jim? I don't remember seeing the eyes.
Yeah, I just was saying, I added the eyes this week or last week. This week. And, you know, in the original Dr. Booth's code, he had like already calls to open eyes and close eyes. I just put in the code to do the eyes for
That's
my.
cool. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to give we figured we need something.
This is really good, Jim. You found her.
Not yet.
She moved.
Hello, Evelyn.
That was just a waypoint originally there.
All right, it's a waypoint.
Bottle for you.
And is the robot following her now?
No, it just it when it said hello, Evelyn,
Please take it.
It plotted where she was.
Thanks. Enjoy.
I mean, is the robot following her in real time, or is this pre-planned?
No, okay, I'll just rewind here. Notice the robot goes to I'll explain. The robot goes to a known waypoint, which is right here, and it says,
Okay.
I've arrived. Okay. The next, I had her in the wrong place. The robot, the next thing it does is it's going to try to find a person. And it does that by rotating and looking. So when she steps over here, or now the robot's looking for her. Now it's
Hello,
spotted her. Now it plots a course. It plots her location in 3D space, robot location, and then it goes up within 1 meter.
Evelyn, I have a
Then
bottle
it
for you.
says,
Thank you.
now she took it too quickly, but I'll show you the,
This is way better than a line follower. This is awesome.
I hope so.
Thanks.
Awesome, Jim, really.
So let me,
Catherine, you're
Good work.
100% right.
let me go to the, I'm sorry?
Good work on this.
Oh, thank you. Now, I'm going to show you the one I did of just me.
Orange, bring this
Sorry.
to Jim.
I wish it would start right away. Like
Orange,
that.
bring this to Jim.
So here's one I just did myself, and then I'll show you a behind the scenes video of a screen capture. So this is me having it go to me in the other room.
Orange, bring this to Jim in the dining area.
Okay. Please place the object on my tray. Okay, I will deliver this fork to Jim in the dining area.
You did
I'm
identify
going to the dining.
Jim, or is that just by rote?
No, this is the AI camera is identifying these objects. It's a YOLO V4 model, so it can identify 40 different, or I'm sorry, is it 80 different objects?
Nice.
And that
Good.
model is available. It's came with the camera, or you can download it.
Can you put the name and link for that camera in the chat?
Oh yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, I'll do that.
Wow, that's a real nice thing you got working there. How long did it take to get it all to work? Is that like a month or a couple of months?
Oh, it depends on what you like. I've been working on this. I mean, it's really with the camera. I've been working for a couple of months with the camera. Although, yeah, I mean, not too long. A lot of it's just come together in the past few weeks, really. But you know, sometimes that happens. It's like you do a lot of preliminary stuff, and then and then it comes together quickly towards the end.
Well, looks really good, and that's with a lot of. Does that have like most of the leaf code in it? Is that the way you're running that?
This is well, this is code that Python code that it's sort of post-leaf era. Dr. Bruce has worked, the sort of newer incantation. Galen is his current robot, and this code is sort of we both shared. He gave me his code from a few months ago or last year, I guess, but I've been working on it for quite a while, adding all my own stuff and so let's watch this.
I've arrived.
So now it's looking for me. Spotted
Hello,
me.
Jim. Jim, I have a fork for you. Please take it. Thanks. Enjoy.
How does
All right.
You've got the fork.
Yeah. So now I'll show you the behind the scenes. That's sort of the front. That's the kind of beauty shot, so to speak, of the robot work. And now this is kind of behind the scenes, so you can see how it's working. You'll see in the top left is the view from the stereo camera, AI camera. The bottom is bottom left is the speech recognition, and then to the right, upper right, that whole area, that's the map. and the LiDAR is in the red, you'll see, and the black are the walls, etc. And another video will pop up in this space that is from a webcam. Orange, bring this to Jim in the dining area. And you'll see the bounding boxes on this webcam, or I mean, sorry, on this view up here.
Okay.
And
Please
you're
place
using
the object
Python to
on my
glue it all
tray.
together?
Yep.
Neat.
Okay. I will deliver this fork to Jim in the dining area. I'm going to the dining area.
So what IDE do you use to get all these graphics?
What's that?
You have a special IDE that you use
For the
for Python?
over Python, I'm using I use between Microsoft Code and also the Spider from the Anaconda. Both of those I've been using
That gives you all these graphic capabilities?
for the graphics.
Yeah.
Well,
Overlay the 3 pictures all in one. Is that one screen or is that 3 screens?
yeah, this is well, okay. What you're looking at is a screen capture of Windows. This is the Windows, the Windows computer that is the main brain of the robot. It's a Latte Panda. So Latte Panda, I'm running. These are all Windows applications running. Well, I'm sorry. The Robo Studio is a separate app that comes from SlamTech. And then the top left is the video feed from the camera. That is coming from my Python, that's from OpenCV. This is an OpenCV window opened up through Python. And then this view of my robot here is actually I composited this in with a video editor. So this was done after post effect. But other than that, you're just looking at a Windows screen.
All right. So 2 of them are updating in real time.
Yeah, and this one was this is a separate video that I synchronized. So you can, this is an experiment. So you can see multi-views of what's going on. Now, you might ask, like, why not identify the person while you're going there? And that's another kind of goal that I might try.
I'm Ron.
Sorry, it got cut off here, but it identified me because it sees a person there.
Jim, I have a fork for you.
Or it doesn't know you're Jim and you're just the first person it sees?
Yeah, that's correct. Now it looks and sees the fork is there, and then says I take it.
Enjoy.
What's the code that says you've taken it?
What's that?
What code says what code decides if you're taking it? What's the if then?
Oh, the if then is if the fork is no longer detected. Notice here the fork is there, and then as soon as I obscure it and then take it away, now it's gone. So I realized, it's interesting when you're programming sensors, including even an advanced sensor like this, you still have to think about low pass filtering, which I didn't really do yet, but with these AI cameras, you're going to get a bit of flickery indication of whether the object is there or not. And you kind of have to do some kind of, like this refrigerator, that's not a refrigerator, and you see how it flickers? That happens a lot. And so I need to add in a little more of that kind of thing, the low pass filter, but this works pretty well for a first attempt. Basically, what I do is when you place an object down on the thing, it looks for the first time it sees an object within a, as soon as it sees anything, it says, okay, the fork, that's it, I'm taking the fork. It checks like 5 or 10 times, and like if any one of those frames has the fork, it goes. But you should kind of more like, it'd be better to do a filter. Like there should be 3 frames out of 10 that at least have the fork or something, because otherwise you could identify the wrong object, like a book in the background, etc. And then when you're taking something away, you might want to also have a sort of filtering in, but this is as soon as it disappears, then the system thinks, okay, the fork is gone, and then it says, thank you.
Jim, brief question here. What will you have to do in order to have Orange distinguish between different people in the same area? Let's say your wife and yourself sitting in chairs or something. How will it go about determining who is who in order to deliver the payload to whoever it needs to go to?
That's an open question. Right now, it's partially. I have some partial answers. There is a model that can identify sex and age, which you could use that if you have, just between your wife and you, then that's all that's necessary. It's not identifying the person's name, but it's identifying, well, this is the female in the house and this is the male in the house. But other than that, to identify individuals, you require some, at least for the AI model, will require training. But Dr. Bruce has offered, he has some code that is non-neural network that could be used. But this is there's different options. You can train the system. You could use that that simple one where it knows the sex and age, and just say, well, I have 3 people in the house. These are their ages and sexes, and then you could identify like that. And then you could also potentially use that that pedestrian identifier, which just marks people as number 1, number 2, number 3. All short of knowing this is Jim. That's like the gold standard. Is the hardest thing to do is this is a particular individual, but those other levels were possible.
The difference that you're talking about is the
I'll be right
difference
back, guys.
between person detection and person recognition. And person detection is a solved problem. That's available. It's easy to do. The person identification or person recognition is also, now I would say, pretty much solved, but requires a different software approach. I have one that does it visually in Python, and now I also have one that will do person recognition based on your speech. So it does a speech analysis and can tell who's speaking, also in Python.
Right, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we saw some of your, you told us about the speech part, and that, yeah, I'd be interested to look into doing the visual person identification. But yeah, at least with this hardware, those are the options that I laid out so far, and the hardest one is identifying individuals by a particular identity.
Yeah, if you had a friend visiting you, a male friend who is of your stature, roughly your body size, stuff like that, the face recognition probably would be the thing that would be the challenge if neither of you were speaking. Because then, without having voice recognition to identify, you'd have to do it just simply visually. which of course we do really easily, but to program it, that's another challenge.
Yeah, like I said, there's, at least with this OD camera, there are already a few models that can separate people, pedestrian, you know, by their clothing and that sort of thing. And then Dr. Bruce is talking about this, you know, other software that can do that as well. But I mean, I you know, obviously I've seen examples of this camera. This particular camera that I'm using, people have trained it to identify members of their office, and it was working pretty, you know, reasonably well at the entrance to their office, and they would identify each person coming in through a door by face, by face. So maybe body too. I'm not sure if it used the whole body, but that's all possible. It's just a matter of getting that together. But yeah, for this particular project that's ending in a month and a half, I don't think it's necessary. But beyond that, it's a good goal.
Is it something you're interested in ultimately implementing, just out of curiosity?
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely, you know, it'd really be cool if it goes up to, you know, me or Evelyn, my wife, and says, "Oh, hi, Evelyn," and knows who you are. Or if you call the robot over, and then it recognizes you by that, and that's definitely a personal assistance goal to know who you are.
Well, what you've done so far is just pretty impressive. Kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move. Or go ahead. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh yeah, I just technically what you're showing is incredible. I am just blown away by what you, and it sounds like your teammates have done, like the navigation, the object detection, and tying everything together is just so cool. But what I'm struck by, and I mentioned this in chat, was, and it's silly compared to the other accomplishments, is that I am just amazed at what the simple of addition of animated eyes have done to take Orange from being a motorized tray to a being. That
Isn't it? Yeah, you know, I finally decided we got to, you know, well, Dr. Booth said you probably want to do this, and I'm like, oh, he's really right about that.
I have to agree with that. It's so strange, but I can't believe what the animated eyes have done for it. That was so brilliant. Just, you know.
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
Alan, I'm gonna have to tell you that I give credit to Carl and Stephen Gentner. Many, many years ago at Fullerton, they demonstrated an EV1 robot that had a little happy face on it. And as the robot was running down the hallway, everyone was straining to stare at the monitor, the happy face. No one was paying any attention to what the robot was doing. They all wanted to see the little face animation.
Mm-hmm.
And that captured my attention, and I've tried to do that with my eye animation. So good job, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
And
yeah,
thank you, Carl and Stephen.
Yeah, this is this standing on the shoulders, you know, giants, because a lot of stuff has come before what I've done to inspire it. And well, and I do have more plans. Like those eyes can move. The pupils move. I have them pointing up a little bit right now, but I'm planning on. I was falling asleep one night and I couldn't. You know, I was just so excited about adding these things, but I figured out in my head a way that I can get the slam tech velocities of the wheels out to my Python code. So then I know left, right, and I'm going to move the eyes left and right based on the wheel, even directly from slam tech or from the black box, you know, that. So that I'm going to, implement that soon at some point to, the eyes will turn as the robot turns. so that you know where it's going.
Or just ahead would be great. Doesn't like the Baxter robot have a face to do that sort of thing? The whole idea is to give the operator, because it's supposed to be in close proximity to people, some clue, some hint that the robot's about to move in this direction. And
yeah, Baxter has that. Plus, I watched this Tokyo robot show, half-hour show. It's really good. I should post that. And they were, Tokyo, they have robots roaming the street with faces and and their eyes, they said, oh yeah, the eyes, it was very useful for people to avoid, getting in their way on the street. The eyes would turn. And I'm like, well, duh, what do you know? That it seems obvious now. So yeah, it's these little, all these technical things make the robot, useful in some way, but the humanistic parts are what make it like 10 times more, fit in, I guess.
So Jim, just a brief question. How many gym hours have you put into this from the inception of this entire robot, from day one through today, approximately? Do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. I've been working on Orange since 2020, beginning of 2020, I guess. Is kind of, it was just a set of parts. But I put, I put in several hours a week at least, depending on, sometimes I go for a few, while I can't. But, lately I've been putting a lot of time in it because of this contest. But yeah, that's the rough, it's been a year and a half of working on it, I guess. But yeah, hours are a lot. So a few hours in a night maybe at best, and then on the weekends some, but eventually that adds up. I was realizing to get 1,000 hours into something in a year, I mean, that's no small task with your full job and everything else. It takes about a year to get 1,000 hours into, assuming nights and weekends, so. And I don't even do all that, so it's probably less than 1,000, or well, maybe 1,500 would be a year and a half, but I'd say it's less than that. 1,000 hours, maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Alan's a better calculator, I think, of time. Are you?
Oh,
Well, Jim, you have a pretty good idea of it, though.
Yeah. It's great. Well, thank you, and we'll move now to. Thank you, Alan, definitely for the compliments, and Dr. Bruce, and it's been a real fun project so far, and I hope to continue. So looks like we have Tim Lewis and Thomas both have presentations for show and tell. So we'll go with Tim first. If you're ready, Tim. Tim, you're muted.
You're muted, Tim.
Muted, you're muted. Does he hear us? Tim, you're muted. Is he not hearing us?
Tim, you're still muted. Tim, you are on mute. Can't hear you.
Tim.
Unless maybe he's talking to his roommate.
He might not be able to hear us. Well, we could go to Thomas first. Thomas, you there? Where is Thomas? Oh, it says I'll be back.
I think Alan had something.
And I'm sorry, Alan. Yeah, teensy spot. You didn't put the time in, so it didn't catch my eye.
No worries, man.
You were first, actually. Yeah, please go ahead then.
All right, so so I should be sharing the Teensy Spot screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the smallest servos came in, and I immediately fell in love with them and redesigned Teensy Spot or T Spot or T Bot, whatever I'm calling it, around those, and I've got it down to about playing card size.
Mm.
There's just enough room on the bottom for Teensy 4.1 still, although I'm still going back and forth about what microcontroller I want in it. Just enough room on the front for a camera and a laser rangefinder, and then the rest of it's all batteries and servos. So I've got a proof of concept set up with a Teensy 4.0 on a backpack with a solder bridge proto board to connect the servos up. And so far, everything here works. I've only burned out 3 servos so far. Learning about how delicate these D56MG servos are, and the stuffing them into what I'm calling here the thigh, getting the proportions right, because if you squeeze the servos too tight, they also tend to bind and burn out. I figured that out this weekend. But yeah, so everything's together, everything works. I wrote some very basic proof of concept codes to move the legs to a natural position or sitting position. And so for this weekend, I am learning micro ROS, the ROS 2 equivalent of ROS Arduino serial. Um, what was nice about ROS Arduino serial was that it was pretty well documented, and it had been around long enough that if you follow the directions end to end exactly, you would end up with a functioning Arduino ROS interface to your code. Micro ROS isn't quite there yet. It's vastly more capable, and it has a lot more stuff, but it's also a lot more complicated. And the Arduino version of it is an offshoot of micro ROS. And what I ran into this weekend was I couldn't get the micro ROS nodes to communicate on the ROS2 graph, even though it looked like they were. And it turned out that there was a code change on the micro ROS side that wasn't pushed over to the micro ROS Arduino code until yesterday. So just by dumb luck, I checked the commit log, saw that something had changed, and pulled the most recent version of micro ROS Arduino, and now everything works. So I'm hoping to have that up this weekend, and then I can write or port over some of the Todd code for position, sitting, standing, and walking. But yeah, I don't think I can make them much smaller. I don't think I'd want to. And after I get the walking code up, on the ROS2 world, originally Gazebo was the go-to place for simulation, but it's starting to show its age. It looks kind of like a 90s 3D video game, and there's much better stuff out there. I think there's a Unity. They're working on like the Unity game engine to be able to provide simulation for ROS2. And what I'm kind of excited about is on the NVIDIA side, there's a robot simulator called Isaac that I have early access to, and I've been playing with a little bit. So I'm hoping over the next month or two, I'll be able to get the model up in Omniverse with physics and simulation and kind of show you how that works out. But yeah, so if all goes according to plan, micro ROS this weekend, simulator over the next month or two, and then over the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping to have them walk. That's all I got for now.
Woo! Micro ROS is interesting. It's pretty new. It runs on the microcontroller level, huh?
Yeah, so the under ROS 1, they had a really neat package called ROS Serial Arduino, which provided primitives and kind of a build system to give you an API and source code to be able to set up a node on your Arduino that could indirectly communicate back and forth through the ROS stack using topics. And it was a little finicky, but it worked, and it was made for 8-bit microcontrollers. Well, And under ROS 2, they have decided that they do not want to support 8-bit microcontrollers anymore. And I'm sure there's some great reasons for that, but that means by default, there's no more Arduino. So they have this replacement stack called MicroROS, which makes the microcontroller more of a first-class citizen on the ROS2 graph, meaning that it behaves a lot more like a ROS2 node. And the code that you write for MicroROS looks very similar to the C++ code that you write on ROS2 on Linux, with the added benefit of, I think you can take advantage of the quality of service code. You have a lot more flexibility than just passing back and forth messages. But there's not a lot of documentation. I've found myself having to use the force, read the source a lot, which is something I just wasn't used to on the ROS side. It's a humbling experience. And I think I mentioned this for a couple of meetings. I've switched over to using Visual Studio Code and Platform IO for Arduino development. And I can't imagine doing any of this using the standard Arduino IDE without the ability to have for code completion and syntax checking, and to be able to browse through the imported library to see what sources were generated. I'd be stuck at ground zero again. So +1 for Visual Studio Code and Platform IO.
So you use both of those in concert, kind of, or one for what? Like, why would you use not just use code, for instance?
Yeah, here, let me. I'll share my screen again and show you what it.
It sounds like it's all a lot better. It's probably a lot better, and it's not worth going back to the old Arduino IDE anymore.
You know, and I absolutely would not. And so in this, and it's not like 100% like out of the box. Like if you want simplicity for writing simple code, you know, and following the instructions and the path and Arduino IDE is the way to go to get your feet wet. But for something like this, where you know, you import this MicroROS library, right? And there's a little bit of black magic in getting it to use the precompiled static lib. So a little bit of Google searching to get that set up. I might even set up a Platform IO lib to make that easier at some point. But when you're going through and you're pulling in the example code, and you're looking at it, so you're copying it in and you're pasting it into your oh, wrong one.
Just quickly, so the IDE is the Visual Studio Code, and then Platform IO is really the library manager. So the Platform IO isn't the IDE for this thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, right? Platform IO is the plugin. Let's go.
Yeah. So you need that's why you need them both, because they do different things.
Yeah. Visual Studio. I kind of spaced, but Visual Studio Code is the IDE, and this is the extension, Platform IO.
Yeah, and you can, it installs right from the extension manager. And for basic Arduino stuff, it is absolutely a drag and drop replacement. It has most of the standard libraries. It even supports the Teensy Duino development packages that are required to push code out to the Teensy. It only gets a little bit more complicated when you need to bring in external libraries. And in the case of MicroROS Arduino, the reason it's complicated is they provide a precompiled static library, which most Arduino libraries do not. So then you've just got to do a little bit of Googling to figure out how to link to that specific static library. And in this case, I'm
just add a build flag.
Yeah, just to say, hey, here's where you can find some additional static libraries, and then here's the name of the library, and then everything else just works. But yeah, I couldn't imagine digging through and finding, you know, based on the source code, and I'm trying to figure out how they use under sensor messages, joint message, like to have to dig through outside and not being able to go through and, like, you know, go to definition, go to declaration. This is invaluable, especially when you're trying to dig through someone else's sources to figure out how everything works together.
Even the old Arduino IDE did have the go-to definition, which sometimes worked. But yeah, it was. Yeah. Anyway.
I can attest to. I switched to Platform IO for one of my clients' projects, and it just made there's made all the difference. It's like all like IntelliSense from Visual Studio, but with all the advantages of like the lightness of Visual Studio Code. There's the one part that is a little bit I can't use it fully for all the projects because Visual Studio Code requires some little bit of overhead in terms of I need to make some files. So there's like that. Any like a medium-sized project, I would never go back to using or the Arduino IDE. There is a Arduino version, like an Arduino plugin, that is not the same as Visual Studio Code, and that allows like the drag and drop stuff. So I think those two tools are make it like a full replacement. So I'm glad I'm seeing someone else jump on the platform.io bandwagon.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone is, interested, hit us up on the messaging boards, or happy to help. It's pretty straightforward to do. It is an additional tool, and it does take you one level away from the years of community message board forums and posts and help that that are there to help when you're just getting started. But once you're at a point where you're writing anything more than, hello world or blink code or servo code, it's well worth the effort to invest into it.
Thanks for showing the awesome project. Do you have that stuff posted anywhere if I wanted to recreate it?
I generally open source it. It's not quite ready yet because this version of Teensy Spot is held together with hot glue and duct tape. But once I get it to a point where it can be assembled without being embarrassed, yeah, I'm definitely posting it all. It's been a lot of fun. All right, Jim, that's all I got for this week.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I forgot to mention, my project is open source and I push up to my GitHub with everything orange, all the different parts of it. So there's firmware for the Slam Tech, and there's all the Python code, and then C++ apps too. So I try to get that.
Yeah, Jim, would you mind posting the link in chat? I'd love to go take a look at it.
Yeah.
Jim, did you say it? So there's a couple routes, with the whole navigation and Slam and all that. So Jim's using the same thing that Dr. Bruce and those other guys using the Slam Tech core and all that stuff. But there's other people doing similar stuff just using the ROS system. So the demos end up looking pretty similar at this point, but they're almost like two different ecosystems that are arriving at the same solution.
Yeah, and it's rumored that Slam Tech, based on our observations from the outside and the way it's kind of idiosyncrasies, where we think it's using ROS inside, especially when it has to relocalize itself. It rotates around in a circle, which is exactly what you do in ROS to get the estimation of all those particles to kind of bunch up to a smaller area. So it's probably using that. We don't know for sure, but
Jim, I'm not sure that what you said means it's using ROS. It may be using the same SLAM, and ROS uses Hector SLAM, which is actually a fairly common algorithm. That's what I had going on Tiger Slam under Go, using the Go programming language. But it'll do the same sorts of things, rotating in place, trying to find itself. So a lot of people use Hector Slam as the standard Slam algorithm, not necessarily a ROS implementation.
Yeah, maybe not ROS itself, but there's a board, the little Slamware core module is a Linux system. I booted it up I've hooked up a serial line to it and watched it boot, and so it's definitely Linux. So that's a hint. But
Common ancestor.
what's that?
A common ancestor in evolutionary terms.
Yeah. In other words, they wouldn't give me the password to get into that Linux system. I was like, they're like, no, sorry, that's not user access.
Well, sometimes even if it gets redeveloped, they'll look at all the features of another system, and basically, essentially reverse engineer it. So who knows?
Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely some common stuff. Common slam is being used. All right, let's see. Correct me if I'm wrong with the next person. It looks like it's Tim. Yes, after Alan. You ready, Tim? You're muted though.
Sorry, I had myself muted there. I'll give it, yeah, ready as I ever be, I
And
guess.
then we'll do Thomas after Tim.
Right now, I've been working around on some stuff and been working with a guy in Texas. We're trying to do a little tiki room bird. This is a static model, one of the ones we're working on. If I can get a picture of it there. Hold on. Eric, can you see it okay?
Yes.
What I'm trying to do is use a board. Hold on a second. Here's the board. This is a touch tone decoder board. It records touch tone tones to 16 different channels on the thing. And so the reason I'm wanting to use this is Disney originally had the original Tiki Room Bird ran on tones on a tape. At the time that they did this thing, they didn't have, they didn't have the phase lock loops and things that they had now. They had something called a read relay, which vibrating reads, which they could tune to a tone. And once that tone was detected, it would make the relay activate. So in the Tiki Room, it had a 16 track tape with 16 channels on each track that could be recorded and played back. And they use that to control the air valves, lights, other functions, speaker switching or whatever in the Tiki Room. So my idea is to go back to something simple because the other guy I'm doing in Texas, we want to sell this thing. So I put it together here. I don't got it set up here on a breadboard, and it actually does work. I haven't got the settings on the board set quite right where I can get fast response. I may not get a fast enough response per mouth. In the case that I can't do that, then I'm going to go to a separate tone decoder chip called a phase lock loop, which can both generate and detect a tone. So I'll use that to control the mouse so that I can animate it faster. The idea is to be able to record this onto an audio track and combine it with your audio, whatever the thing you want to control, and you got a real simple control system for it. So what I've got on my breadboard here, let's see, can you see? Oh, hold on. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, I've got it hooked up to my phone over here, which has this has a touch tone generator function on it. So right now I've got buttons 1 through 9 hooked up. So here's what happens when I start pushing stuff.
Cool. What is a tiki room?
So that's what I'm working on that at the moment. This is as far as I got. My next step is looking up at some relays or some air valves and see how fast they respond. And then there's some settings on my back that changes the functions of the how it's decoded, where it's latch, momentary. I have to find the right setting if it will do it fast enough to be able to control the mouth. That's the only critical point of this whole thing. Down it there. My breadboard there. So that's what I'm working on. Any questions or anything?
So they, instead of lights, that would hook up to the air.
Hook up to relays or directly to the air valves directly. Oh, And these are air valves that I'll be using. These are, hold on my hand here. This is a clippered air valve, 3 or 4 way valve, hooks into, screws into a manifold, which I got a manifold here somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be working with here. We're working on a version of this type of bird. I'm also working on a parrot version of this thing. So we'll have 2 different versions of this thing. But I'm trying to get a real simple control system that could work on the thing. It could be easy to do. You could do it with also have a touchtone decoder chips too that will give me all 16 functions. Unfortunately, the app on the phone only gives me 0 through 9 and star and plus, even though it's got 16. It got A, B, C, D, F on there as well. And the board has all of it decoded to the pins here. I'll show you here.
Tim, what is the electronic board that's on the right-hand side of your breadboard?
What board? What are you talking about? Here?
On the right, yeah, that one. Yeah, what is that?
That is a board that takes my power in and lets me put power on the 2 buses here, anywhere a 5 or 3.4, 3.3, depending on how the jumpers are set. Right now I got it set.
Okay.
This is a 5 volt. I got both signs set, so the power and ground things here and here are +5. But I could change a jumper and make it 3.3 if I want.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
And it also plugs in, got a USB thing here. You can plug it in there, or you can plug it into it. I have a 9 volt source here.
Yeah, it's a nice
Tim?
little
Yes, sir.
breadboard power supply.
Yes. I'm sorry, what?
Tim, how much current are you putting through those light emitting diodes?
Just a standard light emitting diodes, you know, whatever. I got resistors, got low resistors here, so just to make
Just
them
wondering
light.
how many milliamps?
Oh, 20 milliamps per LED.
Okay, thank you.
They're just there to indicate that the channels are going. If I was going to hook it into some relays, I would, hook it to a relay board. I got some relay boards here somewhere. I just can't find them at the moment.
Yeah, I was thinking you'd need some amplification to drive the coil of one of those.
Well, of course, if I was going to drive a relay of a coil, I use probably a TIP 120 since it's a Darlington type transistor, and it would be capable of running the air valve directly. I've done that before.
I see.
I have a system that I had built originally that tones on the tape, which basically, when this was designed and built, was long before microprocessor or anything else. So it took in 16 channels parallel, converted it to a serial stream, and then the serial stream was run through some oscillator circuits to generate a tone for the 1s and 0s, and that was recorded on tape. On the decoder, just did the other thing opposite way down. So I had it set up so I could work a couple of Atari old joysticks that have the 4 button switch things each one. So I had designed the thing to run on 2 of those so I could puppeteer 2 different characters, or since I'm using a Chuck E. Cheese type thing, or the King character, which was a 16 channel. I had 2 valve cards. So
is the tone decoding, more for nostalgic purposes, or do you actually have like a tone track with the full animation available?
Well, again, it wasn't dead for the original one I built. I just described that it was built basically to control a Chuck E. Cheese style character, and at the time I would put it together, I only put 16 channels, but I could have gone up to 40 or 50 channels if I wanted to do that. But again, I couldn't push that many buttons by myself. But at the time of the original one was designed, there was no such thing as microprocessors, phase lock loops, or anything else. The only way to do it was doing like a frequency key shifting technology, which is very similar to the early cassette record and playback things for some of the early microprocessor boards.
Back when it was hard.
So what I did in that particular case, as I said, parallel serial had 74 164, 71 165. One takes the parallel and converts to serial, one takes the serial and converts back to the parallel. And I had ways to decode the tone, take the tones back and turn it back into the 1s and 0 streams. And away it went and ran really good. The only problem with it can get out of tune, and since I didn't have a scope at the time, I ran it as long as I could, and finally got out of tune where it wouldn't function anymore. Because all the things the oscillators are all tuned with little trim pots and all that stuff, which I had to what they call glit to make sure that things didn't vibrate with temperature over time, considering it was a hybrid between point-to-point soldering and wire wrap. Kept it going as long as I could.
But like, was Carl asking like, did you answer why you're still using that though?
Well, the original unit is right now doesn't work. I have it. I've been going to be getting together with a friend of mine that gave him a copy of the schematic. And he understands how it was done, because I was using it something that someone else made, and the other guy tuned it, and he never did train me how to tune the darn thing. So if I can get that working again, I'll use that as well. But this is a cheaper, more modern idea, the same type of deal, tones on the tape.
Oh, I see. You kind of interfacing with older technology.
Well, for example, I don't know if you've seen the Chuck E. Cheese thing or the Rock-afire Explosion show, which was done by Showbiz Pizza or whatever. That's really tones on a tape too. But again, they were using phase lock loop type technology, and it took 5 people to puppeteer the thing, as one person for each character. And then that's how they generated the shows. And then the guy used an Apple II Plus computer to control the tape deck and open files to store some of the data controlling the tape deck and stuff like that.
That's interesting.
It's a simpler technology. It's less expensive to do, and with this stuff, it's more or less off the shelf type of deal. If I get it all to work correctly, I mean, it's easy to use, and you could record it on an MP3 thing using Odyssey. You could record the control track in different passes and then merge it all down to one at some point. So we're using that technology with Audio Odyssey, whatever. You can one person could control a whole bunch of them. Do it one track at a time until you build up all the tracks, and you can press all those tracks down to one. So I haven't tried doing that yet. Right now, I'm just trying to get the hardware up and going and running and everything, and that sort of thing.
It's cool stuff. It's Imagineering kind of category.
Yeah, it's sort of cool.
For live performance capture, really, right?
Well,
And
again, it's you're puppeteer it, whatever, and you capture it, and then you can play back.
Yeah, that's
getting a portion of the enchanted tiki room in the house would be very cool, or under furniture.
yeah.
Well, again, we're trying to we're 3D printing some of the parts for these birds type of thing. So we're trying to get it going back the way it was originally. Yeah, wouldn't you know it? Could stop working. Anyway, any other questions or anything? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. That's pretty cool stuff. I mean,
well, it's simple stuff, but again, it's sort of cool.
I mean, it's since I'm thinking about theme parks going to Disney on Tuesday here.
Well, no, they're more sophisticated now. I mean, they've they're a little more sophisticated now than they were then.
Oh, I'm sure, but all right. Well, let's see. We had Thomas next, I believe, unless Thomas, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, Thomas, I think you're up.
Yeah, I have 1.5 things to show. Probably, I don't know if I'll get to the second one. So, a lot of you know, I've been dealing with building a personality for this fembot I've been building, and I'm doing it in AIML, the Artificial Intelligence Markup Language. and I'm currently neck deep in it. It's pretty intense. And I'm learning what not to do and what to do and how to make it work. And the more I look at it, the more work I see ahead of me. So without further ado, let me show you some of the things I'm working on with it. Let's share my screen. So this is your typical, what we call a category, which is one piece of information, an input and output pair. You put the input here, like, how are you? You set the topic. Let's say you. And then you have some output here. And you can say, I am fine, or you're dandy, or who wants to know? And that works pretty well, and it'll answer the question, how are you? Well, now that you ask, how are you, you want to ask, how are you today? Well, that's pretty simple. You copy this whole thing here, and you paste it below. And now you can put an asterisk, which is a wild card, and it'll answer, how are you today? How are you tomorrow? How are you doing? How are you, my dear friend? And you could take that one step further and paste it again. And you can put an underscore behind the how. And now it can answer the question, so how are you? And how are you? Well, how are you? And you can take that a step further. And you can put an underscore over here and an asterisk over here. And you can answer more combinations of those. So it gets to be a little bit of a organizational problem. You have a sentence, an idea you want to ask the robot, and now you have to think, how many ways can I ask that question? How many ways are other people going to ask that question? And then you have to put it into a format like this. So I said to myself, well, this is not covering probably half of the ways people will ask these questions. And if you miss it, then somebody will ask the question to get the answer, and you won't have that exact input pattern established. So it'll miss it and then go to a default answer like, I don't want to talk to you, or it'll change the subject. So I got thinking and put together a spreadsheet. And this is my spreadsheet. And this topic is called college. My fembot is supposed to be enrolled in a college. So then the problem comes, well, what are all the questions someone might ask about her being at her college? And the first spreadsheet, I outline these. I removed the spaces here for a technical reason. I'll go into that later. But these are some of the questions you might ask somebody who's going to college. Are you a member of any student groups? Are you living at home? Are you more independent? Do you like your teachers? You have you made any friends? What clubs will you join? How are you paying for college? And of course, with each one of these 56 different subjects to be asked about, questions. There are the variations. So each one of these now has a separate spreadsheet. So if we go to the top one, there's the basic input. Are you a member of any group? And here's some of the variations. Are you a member of any student group? Have you joined any clubs? Are you in any clubs? Have you considered any school clubs, any college clubs? Did you find a club that you liked? And then I plotted out this way, putting an asterisk at the end, replacing one or more words, an asterisk in the middle to replace, are you a member of some student group or any student group, like this? And I had one in the middle and the end, and then underscore, and then underscore and star. So now we can answer a large variety of questions. And I did this for every one of these I have. And each one of these templates is set up for 10 different questions plus the basic. And this one's obviously not filled in all the way because I couldn't think of any other questions that one could ask. So down here, I have the output phrases, and it would pick one of these randomly. I have no time for clubs. I'm too busy for clubs. Nope, no time. I really don't have a social life. Poor girl. So this goes across each one of those 55 different questions. And each page, each spreadsheet is all the variations, as many as 66 different variations on the original question. And so this thing fills up with about 2,000 questions and answers, of which, with the wildcards, it could expand to many, probably tens of thousands, if not 100,000 different variations of these questions. And so this is one way I could take a topic, college, and put it into AIML format. Now, I used Excel's concatenation to put all the formatting in: category, pattern, template, random, list, all these tags in. And then I bring them over here and I brought them all over here, and I can copy and paste this out of here and make myself an AIML document. And as you can see, there's quite a few question and answer pairs here for the single question about the single topic about college. And you can see there's a possibility. These are not all filled out. Some of them are just blank. There's 3,600 possibilities that this whole document can handle. I'm only using about half of them. I use AA in blank, so I'd be able to pull it out and filter out the blank ones. I'm trying to figure out a better algorithm to just leave those aside. The upshot is I get myself, and this is not finished, I get myself a file that looks like this. This is just one of those sheets, one of the spreadsheets here. There'll be 66 more like this underneath it later. And then I'm all ready to test these and see if they work properly. And I have an automated test set up in the Easy Robot ARC program that takes each phrase and tests it to see, make sure it comes out with a reasonable response. I'm not set up to show you that test today. We can show that another day. That's about it for this. Any questions?
Thomas, I have a quick question. You
Sure.
have an underscore in front of some of your things and a star in other parts. You can't use a star at the beginning. It has to be an underscore.
I tried that and I didn't get it working. They suggest underscore. They say underscore will be looked at before star. And I couldn't get it working right. And maybe it's just that I didn't put enough time into getting it to work right with putting a star at the beginning. But supposedly you could put a star at the beginning. But an underscore is actually chosen before a star.
Okay. And if you have a phrase, how are you? And you have another phrase, how are you, star? Do you need both? Could you just, does your wild card match when there's nothing?
No, that's why I need both star and without a star. It's a separate, it looks at it as two different separate categories, as it were.
Okay.
So is that the characteristic of AIML itself then, that you can't have a null character or string for the star then?
A null character, what's that? What do you mean?
Well, in other words, not a blank, but essentially a non-character. So that's relative to Bruce's question, actually. So if you have the thing without the star, it's an exact match. If you have the star, you can substitute something for the star, but I'm assuming that AIML does not allow you to have what's called a null character.
Yeah, it takes text literal. It's filtering out any stray characters, and it's looking for the asterisk and underscore specifically.
In other words, I think part of the confusion is in regular expression. Irregular expressions are this computer. I mean, it's common computer science thing. The star means nothing or any number of letters, basically. Or in this system, the star requires something there, right? Or that's the difference, because otherwise you wouldn't have to, like in a normal regular expression, you wouldn't need both the cases Dr. Bruce pointed out. You just need the one with the star, because that would be nothing. The star would represent nothing or more or something.
Yeah, it's unlike the normal regular expressions. This is version 1.0, and I would rather be using version 2 because AIML is certainly moved forward since version 1. But unfortunately, if I want to use the built-in program with ARC, I have to use 1.0. At some point in time, I'm going to upgrade it to go to 2.0 or my own homebrewed version of AIML.
So Thomas, another brief question: How do you convert your spreadsheet text information then to a file that AIML actually uses? Because I assume that's what you're doing. You first do the spreadsheet thing, and then you convert that into a file that AIML recognizes.
I'll show you if you want. It just takes a second. So I'm going to create a temporary file here, and I'm going to wipe out everything that's here. This is my start tag, end tag, and this is a compilation line that I need to have if I'm gonna run it through the cloud, which I may do at some point. And then I would just take my spreadsheet. And I go over here to this page here. And I basically highlight the whole kit and
So
caboodle.
basically, you're doing a copy and paste then.
You better believe it.
Okay, so
Very
that brings
simple.
up a thought. How about programming your spreadsheet using VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, in order to press a button to automatically take any of those worksheets and then just generate the file automatically that way? And then you don't have to do all the copy and pasting.
That has been a thought, and I just haven't written that script yet.
Would
Great.
simplify your work tremendously. You wouldn't have to mess around with all the copy paste, especially every time you make a change or addition or edit to any of your topics or categories or any of that stuff. Just a
True.
thought.
True, and you're absolutely right. And when I get some time, I'm going to code it.
Fair enough.
Any other questions?
Wait, so with that you had, I noticed you had the print sheet there, and then there's all the individual sheets. So you did copy paste from the individual sheets to the print sheet, and then.
Oh, no, that's a pointer over there. Each one of these is, if you look at it.
Oh, that's.
Here, there we go. This is from sheet 1, line or
Oh, okay.
column B78. And if we go down here, that's sheet 2, B67.
Okay, so you have pointers. All right, thank you.
Thomas, are you going to save? You said that there are times when someone might ask something that isn't in your list.
That's
and
right.
You have a default answer.
That's right.
And are you going to save to a log those questions that are not in your database so that you can later go back and consider adding them?
Yes, that is part of the software. You log everything.
Okay. Apartment is misspelled.
Well, thank you. Yeah, 2 P's. I see that. Thank you. I'll have to check it for spelling. I haven't done that. I just put this together last night.
How long did it take you to do all the? I mean, it's 66 questions, and that's a lot of work. Looks like.
I got 90% of it established last weekend, and over the last week, I've just been cleaning it up, and cleaning it up. And yeah, it's a lot of work. And this is just one topic. And for every topic, you need one of these. And this is not even a real smart answer. This is just look for the answer regarding the topic and give it back. And if you think about the way humans are, a lot of times we have canned answers for things. And so this is basically emulating a human's canned answers. It's not a deep thought experiment. It's what does a human do when asked a question he or she has answered 100 times? Like Jim, if I ask you, where'd you go to college? I'm sure you have a canned answer for that.
Stanford.
If I ask Dr. Bruce, what are you a doctor in? You have a canned answer, some answer or some variation that you will answer to almost every person who asks you.
And one of the things that I'm doing other than canned answers is taking this, if nothing matches, running the question through the cloud and having Google Assistant come back with, search the internet and come back with an answer. So
That's
I can,
another option.
I can ask a question that's not on my list, like, what's the capital of Alaska? And it'll come back with the correct answer.
And that is a valid way to do it, of course. I'm emulating a young lady, and she's going to tell you, I don't know what the capital of Alaska is. Ask Siri. She's going to give you a flip answer because she's supposed to be emulating a young lady. And a lot of this personality I'm based on, don't say anything, my own daughter. So yeah, she could be real smart and know everything in the world, or she can be more like an average teenager who sometimes will give you an answer and sometimes she won't. And sometimes she'll just be annoyed. And that's my goal, to have it emulate a human. Any other questions? All right.
Well, just another brief comment, Thomas. I know this would be additional work. You've done a great job on this thing, to put in all the time to do this, obviously. One of the things that does come to mind is that, and this is an ideal kind of situation, would maybe take more time than it's worth, but to put a voice recognition editor in front of the spreadsheet to be able to parse things that you could actually articulate into an audio stream, parse it into text, and then have it automatically be added to the next available spot in your answers. That would be one way to be able to add additional things without a huge amount of work. But perhaps just typing in new things would actually be a lot simpler than trying to implement such a system. It's just a thought that comes to mind.
Yeah. Excel doesn't have voice recognition, but.
Well, understood.
Windows does. You might be able to do that with a standard Windows Assistant or feature that's built in because
Jim?
Dictation they have.
Jim, Word does. That's what I've been doing. I've been using Word's Dictate. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, there you go.
It works pretty well. And then I copy it over.
I'm surprised Excel doesn't have a way, but yeah, I meant using that whatever works,
Well, yeah, Windows has it. Windows Dictate is not very good unless this one's going through the cloud.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, that's good enough. I mean, that's just it. Well, good. I guess it'd be optimal if it went into a new slot like budget stream.
Yeah, it would. And I probably could write some VB code to glue it all together when I have a few minutes.
What about turning it over to social media to get some more questions?
I don't know enough people on social media to ask such a thing. I've interviewed a large number of people for various questions regarding the robot here. And yes, they give me some, but it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
I welcome you to contribute, Catherine. If you want to get together after the meeting sometime this weekend, please. I need as much input as possible, and I value your input.
Thank you. I'll give it some thought and think of what we could do about it.
Well, again,
You got some people?
Hmm?
You guys know some people who could help me with this input and output, mostly the input. That would be very valuable to me, Catherine. Anybody,
think
if
about it.
anybody knows some people who could help me put these questions together, I would be very grateful.
I think you guys are relying too much having to have it connected to the internet to do some of this stuff. What if you didn't have connection to the internet? This thing would be totally useless.
No, Tim, it's not. This is all on my local machine. The only internet connection I have is when I need voice input, because there's no voice recognition software that I could find that sits on a laptop that is accurate as the cloud-based.
Well, I don't know.
Thomas,
I really am kind of looking for it, but again,
Well, hey, remember that I've gotten some good luck with the SAPI. As long basically this is a similar application where I can type in all the responses and all the expected questions and into that rules and grammars, so that there's something there that it works pretty well if you. And since you can only, I guess the main part is if it's something that's not recognized, it may get the interpretation completely wrong, or I mean, it may get the input wrong.
Right now, Jim, I have about 50,000 questions and responses, and I expect it to go to 100,000. So I couldn't limit it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, I just tried Windows key H while you're in Excel and you've clicked on a cell, the dictation will work. And that's using the normal Windows dictation, but I just said testing 1, 2, 3 and it worked. I mean, it was accurate. The only thing you have to do is go to the control panel. If it says, if you try to do what I said there, and it will automatically take you to the control panel, speech recognition, or you can go manually and then turn it on, and then it seems to work. Just try it. Just do the. I think you were there already. Yeah, just turn it on. That's all I had to do. Oh, you haven't set it up. You have to set it up initially, yeah, but that's about it. Yeah, you could try it out anyway. And you hold down the Windows H while you're speaking. Yeah, click that link up there where it says to use dictation. There you go. That's it. That's what I did. And you can train it. If you look below there, you can actually train it to your voice to make it better.
oh, a long time ago, I worked on a robot. They had basically it was a 286 on wheels, had a TI speech recognition.
Right, you told us about that one.
And you could train it to your voice, and it was pretty good. And it was like you're talking to a 5-year-old, but it responded to you. And for example, you could tell the robot, "Hey, go forward 5 feet and turn left." It would go forward 5 feet and turn left. I don't know why that's still available, but there's probably a way to get around it. You theoretically could use a latte.
Thomas, do you have any?
Go ahead, Buzz.
Oh, I was just going to ask Thomas if he has any, do you have any plans to post this somewhere for anybody to help you or contribute to it at all, or?
Oh,
Thomas?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
This is all part of Open Fembot. It'll all go up to my Open Fembot GitHub after I clean it up.
Thank you.
oh, I just wanted to mention we're reaching the 12 o'clock hour, and I want to allow people to go who have need to go, and thank you for attending where I guess we're still in the question and answer phase for Thomas.
All right, is that it on the questions? All right, who's next on the list? I do have something else if we're still going in a few minutes, but I need a minute to get that ready.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
was there anybody
share-
else?
I'd share your screen in the meantime.
Oh, yeah, you can unshare. I can show you what I just found out from Excel. I don't know if this will work while I'm also talking to you, but let's see. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Let's try a difference. My name is Jim D'Annunzio. My name is Jim D'Annunzio. Well, that's the usual case. No one spells my name right.
Well, that works pretty well. It didn't work for me. Maybe it's because I've got everything connected and I need to disconnect from a few.
Let me try one more. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy green dog.
Hmm. You know if that's going to the cloud?
Yeah, it might be.
I think it is.
Actually,
but could be
I don't
wrong.
know if it is. Let me try one more. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy green dog. Stop dictating. I don't know if I'm doing it right. The quick brown fox. Stop dictating. Huh. Yeah, it's not working quite right. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. The quick brown fox jumped over. Not fully supported. Oh, well. Well, anyway. It can work. It may be not being on a Zoom call it would be better.
Yeah, it looks like it's cloud-based, Jim.
Oh, then that would be that's okay too, as long as it works. It's the main point, right?
True.
And you don't have to copy paste from Word. Might be better.
True.
That's yeah, a little bit better anyway.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to set up my second thing. If the meeting's still going,
Yeah. So
I'll show it.
we'll finish the recording and the official meeting now.